Dear Journal, I really should just make a little rubber stamp that says, "Today has been an eventful day." Because I always say that, because almost always it has been an eventful day. Well, it's been an eventful day. I had a little bit of a sleep because I was so exhausted. But now I'm feeling a little peppier, and I think I'm going to write this down and draw my pictures and see if I can explain what happened today as best I can. Actually, it was today and yesterday, technically. Well, to start off with, I was talking to my spirits about how I realized that the potato that was out front, during the time when I was so emotionally upset after Daniel was killed, and, the time that I punched Kael a few times, well, with my sword, so I guess I slashed him. Anyway, that didn't seem to do much effect, and I thought that was due to, due to his magic, because I know he didn't have any armor on when I first hit him. But it turns out that wasn't the reason. At least I don't think it was, not on his part, because, well, I've learned something about seers, and let me just make a little note about that, because I don't want to forget to tell you further. Hopefully I won't forget. Notes. I need a place to write a note. How about on the side of my journal here? That might... Alright. Yes, okay, there. I've got it written down. Now, yes, so I went out front of the house, and because Astharus had said that Justice was watching through the potato that was in front of my house. Well, according to Damnatio, who I talked to yesterday, it doesn't really watch through it. It's more like he or she acts through it. So it's like a conduit. They don't talk, and I guess they don't really watch either, but that's the way Astharus put it. Anyway, the point is, that was the potato that lured Daniel to stand in the right place so that the lightning bolt could hit him and briefly open and shut the portal. Well, yeah, so when I realized that, and I realized that sign that I'd seen out front that I thought was kind of code, unfortunately I can't show you the sign because, well, something happened to it, and I'll talk about that in a little bit too. The sign said in sort of code, I thought it said something like "Justice was here," and I'd actually seen that before the events at the castle, and I was really puzzled by it because it didn't make any sense to me. This was a potato that I'd put in the Badania mana pool and made into a little guy that if you hit him gave a heart. So I didn't understand. I'm like, I made this potato, and I have no idea what that has relation to Justice to anyway. But now, based on what Astharus said, and based on what I saw, and based on what Atira told me, I now understand when Damnatio said that they have been watching me very closely, and he kind of emphasized the word very, and now I understand why, because apparently at some point my potato out front was swapped out by a layer for one that was linked to Justice, so that Justice could act through it, and I guess could always watch me, but I guess that's why Damnatio, who, if you're not aware, is a layer, but, well, insane, and so he's got a new personality, and thinks of himself as separate, although he now acknowledges that Ilair is part of him. Anyway, point is, I see the link between the sign, the potato outside my front door, the potato that lured Daniel to his doom, and, well, you'll see when I talk about. There's some more potato shenanigans. So, yeah, Daniel couldn't possibly have been a volunteer. Because why would he need to be lured to the place? So he was truly sacrificed in the same way that I had to sacrifice the villagers. Someone who was unknowing and innocent. And Daniel was Daniel. at the time of his death, so... Because that's what happened, and he is sent beyond. He is now... well, safe from Astharus. And I know I've said this before in a previous journal entry. He's safe from Astharus. He's where he should have been when he died in my world, but he got snagged and got caught up in Astharus' nefariousness. So, in a way, the fact that I got brought here has helped me save at least Daniel out of my family. He was in trouble and I didn't even know it. And I'm so grateful. Even though I don't like the way he was sacrificed, I understand why it was done. That doesn't mean I have to like the act. I would have liked the opportunity to try to find another answer to still have him here. But safe from Astharus, and I don't know how that could have been accomplished, aside from, freeing Atira. But that had worried me, what would happen to him if Astharus fully realized that he was lost to him, because I had given him a reason to fight for being himself and win. So, he asked me in his spiritual will that I heard to forgive whoever had killed him. I still have moments when I feel like I don't forgive him. Justice, she, whatever. But I am probably faster than I would have thought I could, because of everything that's happened, and I understand so much more than I used to before we came here. I understand why it was done. And the fact that he's safe now, and I'm at peace with the fact that I was able to help him when he was in trouble and I didn't even know it before. Well, I am coming to forgive Justice and Atira and whatever other entities might have been involved in planning this. Justice for the act, Atira because I know she agreed with it, that it was necessary. I am in the process of forgiving them. I haven't quite reached there yet, but I'm in the process because Daniel asked me to, and because I'm trying very hard to do that. And the fact that I understand it is probably helping, and the fact I'm at peace with what's happened is also helping. That doesn't mean that I accept and agree that what they did was the right thing. Doesn't mean I say that the act was the thing to do. I would have liked the opportunity to find a different answer. I didn't have that. So, forgive them, yes. Say that what they did was okay. No. But that's just the way it is. But that's what I talked to my spirits about yesterday before things started happening again. Then I started my day, doing my usual things, and let's see. I talked to William briefly, but he was here just long enough to tell me that Kael had killed Perdition, which actually one of my spirits had said that they thought that's what had happened, and I wasn't certain at the time, and so I did notice that they'd said it. I think it was BVB, in fact. But I was still very upset at that point, and I didn't really pay too much attention to it. But William has confirmed that he did kill it. Perdition. Daniel's last gift to me. And yeah, I guess technically it's his last gift, because I don't know if what you get in a will is considered a gift. Anyway, he killed Perdition for some kind of pearl. I now know it's called a primordial pearl. I just at that point knew was a pearl of some type. Some rare thing. Perdition's soul, in this case. Then Damnatio arrived. William was surprised. William wasn't here physically. I was talking to him through the telepathic network. And then Damnatio arrived, and William I don't know if he got spooked by Damnatio arriving, because he was like, what? He's on our side? And Damnatio was, in his turn, going, what? William's on our side? Well, he didn't say our side because he's got his own side. He just happens to help me out on occasion because he's rather fond of me in a god and mortal kind of way. But he did promise to kill me last, after all. In any case, yeah. So William kind of skedaddled. He didn't really say goodbye. I think he was kind of spooked, like I said. So then I visited with Damnatio, and we talked about a few things, and I could tell there was something a little different in his demeanor, and it turns out that he has had his own meeting with the entities. Justice apparently talked to him and wanted him to agree to allow Berserker, the part that we don't want out of awakened in a lair, because he wants to totally obliterate everything. I mean, everything, including the entities and, just the whole thing. And apparently if he came to his full power, would be strong enough to potentially do it. Which is kind of strange how that works. But in any case, Justice wanted to, while Berserker was nice and quiet and sleeping and not a problem, get rid of him. Unfortunately, apparently, at least at this point, it does not appear that works like Daniel. Daniel was able to recover himself and purge that part of him that became Ian and recover it and become Daniel, even though was a child like Daniel and would have to grow, I guess, again. Well, you can't do that with a god, apparently. A lair and Damnatio and Berserker that all exist within that one soul would have to be destroyed. Now, I didn't ask this, but since a soul can't be destroyed, that's what Atira told me, that means I would imagine he would be sent beyond the entities like Daniel was. So he would die like a mortal would. So that they could make a new god of light, a brand spanking new god of light. And yes, that this prospect is upsetting me a lot, because I expected to lose the ability to talk to Damnatio, because, well, if Atira is freed, I expected Alair would come back to himself, like Daniel did. Even if he needed help doing it, I'm sure Atira would be able to provide that. So I was prepared that I might not be able to speak to Damnatio anymore, because he is different than Alair. And I do like Alair too, but, well, I've actually had more time to talk to Damnatio. But apparently that can't be done. I have asked Atira later today. I asked her if I told her about this conversation, and she already knew what had been proposed, and she was upset by it. In fact, she was so upset there was actually little whirls of wind in here, which has never happened. So, but she said she didn't want to talk about it, so I just told her that if there was anything I could do to help, that sometimes thinking about it, maybe I could, mortals are strange. Maybe I would see an angle that she didn't. Because she, at the level of God she's at, she's not omniscient. Berserker would be at the omniscient level, apparently, which is part of the problem, but I told her I would do anything to help her save Alair. I don't know if there is anything I can do. I don't know if he has to die, but just like Daniel, I'm hoping there will be another way. And then, to change the subject with Damnatio, because he didn't particularly want to talk about it much further, we decided to go look at the castle, because I want to show him what had happened after Daniel had died. The purification of the castle. And it is daytime, so let's go over there. I will show you probably mostly what was there at the time that I went, but some changes might have occurred. We might be attacked by golems. They weren't there when I went with Damnatio, so just so you know. I don't know if he's had a... Okay. He has not come back and done much. Aside from a wall around it. Okay, well that's new. That wasn't here. Apparently he's been busy building walls. Alright. Or someone was. I'm not sure. Alright, but I've shown you this before. I've drawn pictures of this. Okay. That is new. I didn't notice that before. Tell Evalyn I'm sorry. Daniel's to-do list. Sorry for what? Maybe... because he did say he was sorry he misled me, that he still worked on the portal, so... maybe that's what that's about. Anyway, I'm getting distracted. So yeah, ignore that part there. You don't see that. I came here, I saw this sign. All golems clear during testing. I came in, I saw all this trash lying around. Ignore those signs too. All this stuff around, and I was... okay, there's a little bit changes here. Days without golem injury. That wasn't there. But there was this stuff here in the center. There was this hole blown in the wall. And I got really pissed. I have never been so angry. I was going to... I inherited this from Daniel. By his spiritual will, this was mine. And I guess Kael figured since it was on the desert, it was his. And he didn't know about the spiritual will. And so Damnatio... I came to show Damnatio this, which I'd found earlier in the day and gotten very, very upset about. That was actually before Damnatio showed up. He actually came at the end of my irate recounting to William. So, yes, he has been conducting experiments on the portal. It's not so much that he wants to reopen it. He said, as I found out later, he wants to understand it for the power potential. Because he's all about becoming power. That's why he destroyed Perdition, and that's why he took the pearl. Because apparently it's a powerful item. And that's why he killed my last present to Daniel. Stole Daniel's last present. And stole this castle. And if I sound irate, it's because I'm still pissed that he did that. Now, as subsequent events will see in what I'm about to tell you, that is not quite... I will have to give up my irateness about this, if all goes according to plan. Actually, no, I don't, come to think of it. That's right. Okay, never mind. We'll get to that. I might be able to... Yes, I might be able to do it after all. Okay, because I wanted to make this a memorial to Daniel, because he died right there. And just like I made a memorial to the villagers, I wanted this to be a memorial for him. If this world continues to exist after I hopefully succeed in Free Terra, I want people to know the sacrifices that were made to do it. And I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about the people, Daniel and the villagers, the 2 villagers. Because without them, I wouldn't have been able to do it. So, anyway. So I showed Damnatio this, and basically, he had offered earlier to... He said he was getting very annoyed by Kael, and he thought that, maybe he should kill him. And I was very tempted. I won't deny that, because I was still very pissed at that time. But he told me or sorry, I told him that it wasn't, as much as I would like to say yes, go ahead and do it, I didn't think it would help matters because I didn't know where the pearl I needed was. And so I think instead of plotting Kael's demise, he came up with this. And I had some input on it, and I'll explain my input on this once I realized what he was doing. He put this here. Good morning, Kael. Just so you know, there's a pretty gigantic amount of TNT near this castle, tied to a hidden pressure plate, so that should be fun. Oh, yeah, V fluctuations nearby might also activate it, i.e. this thing. So yeah, good luck with that. Love and kisses, Damnatio. It may or may not be activated by the use of V nearby. This is actually old signs. I guess he decided to leave them because he had 3 signs here originally, but he should add that the V fluctuations nearby may or may not activate it. And he liked that, so he did this over here. So, after Damnatio departed, I took a nap, and then I decided to come. Let's see, I'm trying to. Was there anything? Okay, I don't think I'm forgetting anything important, but I think the next thing happened is I came here after I woke up and did a little puttering around. I came here. I think I was showing one of my spirits who hadn't been with me earlier what had happened here. And Kael was here, but I didn't realize it at first because I came in, and hopefully he doesn't show up while I'm doing this. I saw this, which I hadn't seen before. I had read his experimental log over here already, but I hadn't read this because I figured this is in my castle. I'm looking at everything. I'm reading everything. This is not something I would normally do in another person's home, but this is my castle. It was left to me. I can do whatever. So I read it. And then just as I looked up from reading it, I saw him over there. I saw him with his portable hole looking frantically for dynamite. TNT. I thought that was hilarious. Unfortunately, he was unhappy that I was here, and so I got unhappy back because I was still upset from earlier. And I told him to get the frick out of my castle, that it was left to me, and he's like, what do you mean, your castle? And, well, then he attacked me, and he couldn't hurt me. But in the heat of the moment, I didn't realize that just then. He was definitely trying to hurt me this time. I wasn't sure last time, but I thought he was. But this time I was positive because I had little fire going around me, and yeah, it didn't hurt at all. You know my armor here? It has some, I thought it had some. No, it has absolutely no fire protection on it whatsoever. I did not have in my possession the item that would protect me from a little bit of fire that I made. So I should have been going, ow, 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 and no, it was fine. So when he realized that for whatever reason, he wasn't hurting me, and that actually also explains why I didn't hurt him when I got upset at Daniel's death and hit him and caused this whole thing in the first place. His irateness with me, that is. So anyway, he decided to teleport me somewhere else. It was the Nether, although I didn't realize that at first, and I spent some time taking all my stuff off and putting it in my ender chest, and then looking around and realized, oh, I'm in the Nether. I'm not in the void room he promised to send Ian to. So I'm like, okay, let's put my armor back on. And while I'm doing that, some light appeared. And it was Kael. So then we proceeded to have a not-so-friendly discussion about the fact that he was set up in my castle, and he was like, no, it's my castle, and, well, things kind of devolved from there, and I let him know that I needed the pearl, and that I didn't want to do this, but I was a little calmer than I had been earlier, and I realized that I might have to give up my plans for a memorial for Daniel here, because the more important thing was to get the pearl from him. Perdition's pearl. So I told him I needed the pearl. I didn't tell him what for. I told him part of the reason, because it is part of Daniel's last gift to me, and that is the personal reason I want it. The other reason that I want it, of course, is because I need it to free Atira. But I didn't tell him that part. I told him the part that was personal to me and was true, just not the whole truth. Yeah, basically he said no. He said, I don't want the portal. And I said, well, I'm not saying you want to open it. And that's when he said, well, he's studying it because he wants to understand it. And I'm like, well, fine, you can have the freaking portal. Just give me the pearl. You've stolen both things that were mine. I will stop harassing you about this one if you give me the pearl. Because I figured out of the two, he probably valued that more. At least I hoped. Well, he's like, no, you can't have either of them. And then he whips out one of his Eldritch Guardians that he likes to... I think he called it Skullbreaker or Skull Crusher or something of that nature. And I'm like, okay, fine. This is just devolving. I know that I can die to minions because I died to one of Ian's minions. And I don't know if I was invulnerable at that point, but I decided I didn't really want to take a chance, and so I just lit out of there like a bat out of hell to find out that the cave ended. And so then I start to dig. Well, to make this very long story a little shorter, I decided to... Once I dug out, I headed for home. And, well, he followed me. And kept trying to stop me from going home by teleporting me just nearby. I don't think it was maybe he can't cast that spell very often. But anyway, he followed me home. Actually, he reached home but just before I did. And when I arrived, the first thing I heard was... Kaboom! There goes my front porch. Again. First time Damnatio. Well, actually, I guess that was when Berserker was released for the only and hopefully the only time. Yeah, so there goes my front porch again. That was lovely. Just what I needed. And, to boot, he killed Justice's potato. It was gone too. Yes, it's back. And I'll explain how it got back. By the way. Hi, Justice. I know this lets you hear me a little better, I think. It's nice to see you. I'm just writing in my journal and drawing pictures, so please don't mind me. Anyway. Alright, so... So I yelled at him. I said, what are you doing? You've killed Justice's potato now. Are you done? And then, well, again, I'm going to try to shorten the story because I realize this entry is getting very long, but I'm telling you the most important parts. We went down there and we had a nice long semi-acrimonious discussion, which ended up with me being put in his void prison this time, where I almost died several times, but I managed to fight off the creatures there and build myself a little shelter out of stone in which to sit. And I'll explain that in a moment too. So anyway, during our discussion, which started here and continued there, basically the gist of it was he wanted to know exactly what I wanted to use the pearl for, because I was so insistent on getting it. And of course, at first I was only telling him my personal reason for wanting it, and he didn't find that satisfactory. I don't think he had much family to care about. He didn't understand. And, well, then he went away, said that he'd leave me to think about it. And that's when Justice, in the form acting through the potato, appeared. Because I had said in my mind, Justice, I don't know if you can hear me. I don't really expect you to appear, but, you know, some help would be spiffy. Something like that, because the gods, because of the agreements that they made with each other back when this place and its associated dimensions were created, the rule is they can't go to those dimensions. So I couldn't hope for rescue from anybody but an entity, and that's why I spoke to Justice, not honestly expecting anything. So when the potato appeared in front of me, I was, to say the least, ecstatic and shocked, and then I thanked Justice for showing up and explained as best I could what was going on, and then then suddenly Kael came back, and it was actually under his own volition, but I didn't realize it at the time until I asked him, because Justice, of course, vanished at the same point, so he never saw Justice. And then we continued our discussion, he wanting to know why I wanted the pearl, and me telling him the same story, and then finally I told him a little bit more, that I needed it for a task. And so then, semi-satisfied with that, he jetted off again, to leave me to think some more, because I wouldn't tell him anymore. And so Justice came back again. And so I spoke to Justice some more, basically explaining my thought processes, because I know my spirits could hear me too. So anyway, when Kael did come back again, I ended up, some of this is a little confused in my memory, so you'll excuse me if it's not 100% accurate. It's not because I'm not trying. Basically, I ended up telling him and pointing out to him that I in effect told him what I wanted it for, that I needed it to free Atira, but I didn't directly say that. And he's like, well, why would I help you free Atira? We're on opposite sides. And I said, well, because I know you didn't agree to be Astharus' seer until he turned you into a wolf by a snap of his fingers or whatever it is that he did, and then that forced you to agree. So I know it's not by your volition that you are his seer now. And I said, do you see the bars now, Kael? The ones I warned you about back, I thought, just before you accepted the tasks to become Astharus' seer? Do you see the bars that I talked about now? And he's like, I'm not in a cage. And I said, oh yeah, sure. Tell me that next time Astharus snaps his fingers and you get turned into a wolf. Oh, it's under my control. Yeah, right, Wolfie. The leash, it's awesome. And of course he was getting ticked at what I was telling him, but he was getting mad in a way because he knew I was telling them the truth. And so he didn't really attack me at all. He just kept going away and coming back, because I was telling him the truth, and he knew it, but he didn't want to admit it. And so then I told him, what if I could, how did I put it? I said that I think at that point he went off again, because I then Justice came back, and I spoke to Justice, and I said, I don't know if I should tell him that Atira... Oh no, I remember now. I told him that the statue... I said, do you know why Astharus wouldn't... that Ian didn't want to give you or me the statue? And he's like, no, I don't know. And so I told him, Astharus didn't want you or me to have the statue because he was afraid I would cure you. And that means he couldn't force you to do things because he wouldn't have the leash. You wouldn't be in the cage. You'd be free. And that's when he took off. And then Justice came back. And I told Justice, I don't know if I should tell him that Atira might be able to cure him, because I don't know if she will. I need to ask her. And Justice brought me home so that I could ask her. Because this is the only place I can ask her. I have to be here. I have to be here with the elements I need to awaken the soul to soul connection. And so I did. I talked to Atira. And, well, the end result of that conversation with Atira is that I was able to relay an offer to Kael from Atira. Apparently, in my world, Kael was a force for balance. Yes, I realize that sounds odd. I realize that sounds weird. Kael, who is... I have known pretty much from near the beginning that he was a force for evil, but I never just, come out and say it. It's kind of an unwritten rule. You don't say these things, but certainly not to his face. The closest he ever came was to say we're on opposite sides, but, yeah. He was a force for balance. And it makes total sense now that I think about it, because there has to be a balance on the good side, like a lair here. There has to be a balance on the dark side, like Astharus here. And if that balance isn't maintained, and here the balance is maintained by Atira, I don't know how it's maintained in our world. Maybe it's purely a scale there. But Kael was killed near the beginning of the war. And the war spiraled out of control when he was killed because the balance on the evil side was removed. And you can just imagine something that's unbalanced just whirling faster and faster and getting worse and worse. And that's why the war happened. Because the balance, and there was no balance to replace him at that point. There may have been other reasons why it happened, but this is my current understanding. And so Atira's offer was, yes, she would cure him if he agreed to return to our world as himself and resume his old position. Just the very thing he's been trying to do since day one. So when I spoke to him over the telepathic network, of course I started out by saying that she agreed to cure him. And that's what he focused on first, saying, I'm not ill, I don't need to be cured, which he's said before, but anyway, we know that's not true. And then he registered the second part of my comment, that he would be returned, that he would be cured if he agreed to return to our world and resume his old position. And I emphasized the words our world because I needed to catch his attention after he got over the first bit. And it did. He's like, wait, what? And he actually started to consider returning it, the pearl. But he needed proof first. And I talked to Atira, and Justice went to talk to him. Well, not talk to him, to show him some proof. I don't know what it is yet. That's what I have to do the next time I see Kael. I have to... Atira said that I probably will have to explain to him what it meant. Whatever Justice showed him. So I don't know what it was. I'm hoping I can explain it in a way that satisfies him because, well, it's Kael. He never takes anything at face value for the most part. But yeah, actually, I did forget part of it, but that's the most important things that happened. I am now waiting to talk to Kael again. And he did actually, at one point in the proceedings, give me this primordial pearl. My spirits were suspicious from the beginning that it wasn't the right one, and he admitted as much later. And when I showed it to Atira, she confirmed it was not the right one. It is not Perdition's soul, but it is the kind of thing that we need to get. So I will be returning this to him. Because, well, it's his. But if he returns to our world, I don't know if he'll be able to take it with him. Probably not. We arrived here without anything, so the chances are he won't be taking it. Assuming all goes well, of course. But yeah. So progress! The end result is we have made progress, and I know this is a long journal entry, but I think because it explains a lot of things, I just had to explain it in the detail I've done. Oh, now, what was the things I didn't want to forget to talk about? Right, the no damage thing. I asked Tira about that after we were waiting. Justice went off to speak with Kael. Well, not speak again. Show Kael, whatever it is that he showed him. But anyway, point is, I talked to Astharus. Apparently, they've set things up so seers cannot hurt each other. Because they didn't want the seers fighting amongst themselves. You know, the light seer and the dark seer. And possibly the balance seer, which would be me, getting into the mix. But I did point out to her that there was a small flaw in their plan, and I would assume that it wasn't intentional. At least she didn't say for sure, so maybe it's intentional. I don't know. But the loophole is that if one side has a minion, they can send that minion after the seer and they can kill them, no problem. That would be the death point that I have right here. Where am I going? That's not what I wanted to do. Yeah, the death point that is visible down here was when I was letting Kael test various things on me when I had no armor or anything on, because I was trying to convince him that it had nothing to do with anything I'd done. I was just not hurtable by him. Well, just like with Ian, one of his minions killed me at one point. Well, felled me. Yeah, old habits die hard. Felled me because I reappeared at my bed. Yeah, a bat killed me, one of his minions, and, well, I came right back down because I wasn't that far away. And I said, because I used my backup mechanism for getting out of the, did I ever show you that? Oh yeah, I used my backup mechanism for getting out. Basically, yeah, this takes me to the nether. There's a book in the nether that takes me home, to my front porch. Yeah, so, that's a flaw. Because we could, you know, wax each other with minions, which doesn't really stop the fighting, does it? Anyway, like I said, maybe it's intentional. Loophole. Maybe it's not. If it's not, perhaps that might be changed for the next set of seers. I don't know. This is all assuming, of course, we succeed in getting Kael to agree to give me the right primordial pearl, Perdition soul, and that I'm able to use Atira's bow and the pearl to free her. But at least if I get the primordial pearl, that means that Kael has a vested interest in seeing Atira freed, so Astharus won't be able to get his seer to interfere. So there's that. Anyway, I think I've covered everything I meant to. I'll probably think of something after the journal is concluded, which I usually do, but for now, I think I'm going to end this journal entry here. Good night, journal.